Blizzcon 2013 introduced us to Ashran. It was going to be the next big thing for PvPers, totally changing the game from what we were used to. We were to expect a sandbox environment with non-stop action, and references were made to the old Alterac Valley from the glory days. I did farm the Walnut of Draenor title very early on in the expansion, so I spent a lot of time in Ashran, and when I finally got it I promised myself I would never return to this place, but I have stuck my head in once or twice. The thing is, Ashran never quite became what was presented at Blizzcon, so in this video we will look back on how this place has evolved through time by looking at alpha builds and development maps. After that we will try to answer the question if Ashran was ever going to be like they described in BlizzCon 2013, or if that was really just a concept and nothing more. Enjoy! So, you have most likely already seen the PvP panel from BlizzCon 2013 when they presented Ashran. It was described as a place where you could come and go as you wanted and pick and choose from many different objectives, all PvP oriented. You would be able to construct siege vehicles over the course of several days, which would then be used to reduce the enemy bases to rubble. By the time they didn't have anything to show of the actual zone itself, instead we were shown a mock-up of an Alliance fortress and a gunship flying over it, just to give us an idea of what to expect. However, at another point during BlizzCon, some interesting stuff regarding Ashran was displayed. During the art panel, a concept map for Draenor flashed by, and on this a lot of things were different from what we would end up getting. The Chronal Spire was the entry point to Draenor, Shattrath was marked as a raid, and the island off the coast of Tanan Jungle was not called Ashran. Instead, Ashran was the zone we know as Gorgrond today, just with a slightly different spelling. At this point, the island off the coast of Tanan was most likely still called the Deathwing Island as it is on old Draenor maps. And the reason this map is so interesting for the evolution of Ashran is because at one point, a piece of it could actually be found in-game. What you can see here is a very early stage of Tanan Jungle from that concept map. It has a small hill which is the Whisper Peak, the Chronal Spire which was the entry point to Draenor at the time, and it continues on into the Ashran zone. And just like on the concept map, Farallon is not an island here. Instead it is attached to the northern part of Ashran, just above an area called The Rock. Placing the concept map and the map file next to each other, you can see just how similar they are. And while Gorgrond is named Ashran in this map, I want you to direct your focus to the island off the coast of Tanan, because as you can see, in this very early zone, based on the concept maps, you can find Deathwing's Island. So what you see here is the earliest traceable map of what will become our very beloved world PvP zone. Now, when the first alpha build rolled around, Ashran had already begun to take shape. By this time, Warspear and Stormshield didn't exist because the faction hubs at the time were supposed to be Bladespire and Karabor. However, you can already recognize the other subzones: the Ashmold Burial Ground, the Molten Quarry, the Ring of Conquest, the Seat of Corlock, Brute's Rise, and Amphitheater of Annihilation. Even though they are in a very early stage, you can see that they already had an idea where they were going. As the development went on, eventually Stormshield appeared. On June 27, 2014, Blizzard declared that Karabor and Bladespire would no longer be the capital cities. Instead, it would be the hubs that we have today, and this was the explanation for that decision. Warlords of Draenor's story is about the people of Azeroth, namely the Alliance and the Horde, venturing into an unknown world and building up a force strong enough to take out an enemy stronger than anything they've encountered before on that enemy's own turf. While there are certainly some alliances to be made along the way, and those are definitely a major part of the story, the core theme is about you and your faction fighting for survival. So as development continued, we came to the realization that it just doesn't make sense for the Horde and the Alliance to spend so much energy and resources building up a stronghold on Draenor only to base their efforts out of someone else's city. We are not helping the Draenei or Frostwolves fight the Iron Horde, they are helping us. The Alliance and Horde both have major bases of operation on Draenor, that should be where they are working from. That, along with the continued development of garrisons into the overall quest and story flow of the expansion, led us to the decision to develop Horde and Alliance bases on Ashran into the major faction hubs instead of Bladespire and Karabor. Promoting the world PvP area on Ashran is a nice perk, but it wasn't a factor in making that decision. Now, needless to say, most players didn't enjoy this change. And personally, to this day, I cannot understand how they would throw away those amazing capital cities for the underwhelming hubs that is Warspear and Stormshield. Throughout the alpha and beta, Ashran slowly took form, until it became what it is today. As you can see, the general layout never really changed. The subzones remain where they were at the start, even though their designs and styles evolved a lot. Since the expansion was released, Ashran has had many issues. This video is not covering how the rewards and the mechanics have changed, but since its release, around 30 hotfixes and a few major overhauls has been made to the system to make it work. In addition, in 6.2, another area was added. The Ashran excavation and Apexis Mark event ensured that the player's need for even more Apexis crystals was fulfilled. I feel like I have to mention the map Placeholder Heroes through time in this video as well. This has been in the game since the first alpha build of Warlords of Draenor and still remains to this day. Its design is very similar to Ashran's, which has led to the speculation that this is another alpha version of the place. I really don't think so, since it would make very little sense to have the Gilnean and the Elven architecture even as placeholders for an Ashran map. I do, however, believe that this is the early stages of a time travel themed battleground. Since it is so similar to Ashran, they probably scrapped this and redesigned the idea to a world PvP zone. Of course, that is just my speculation, but it is the one I think makes the most sense. So to answer the question if I think there once was an Ashran, like the one they described at Blizzcon, with all that sandbox freedom and constructible vehicles and destroyable buildings, my answer to that is no, I don't think there is. There simply would have been some traces left in the game files if they would have worked on another version than the one we got. Even when comparing the biggest version of Ashran to Alterac Valley, it is still half the size at best. And with no evidence that they have ever worked on a bigger PvP area, I just have to assume that the current version was already in the works. And I just doubt that the features like the constructible siege vehicles were ever going to be part of a PvP zone of this size. And unfortunately, these are the kinds of things that made Ashran and Warlords of Draenor in general to fail to live up to the hype, because the expansion sold to us just wasn't the one we got. Alright, this was everything I had for this video, so if you liked it, do give it a thumbs up and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be back very soon. Take care.